Behind me here is a very special car. It is of course the brand new Honda Civic, which is going to be launched in Malaysia very soon. Now the Civic is arguably Honda's most recognizable model, and while the C segment market may be shrinking a little bit, the Civic is still a very important car. So Honda Malaysia has brought us all the way out here to Sepang to test drive both the new Civic as well as its predecessor and a competitor, the Toyota Corolla. Is it any good? Well, we're going to have to find out later on when the car is launched to know for sure, but we'll be able to have a sneak preview of what it's like to drive. Let's go check it out. Now the Civic is in its 11th generation and it's codenamed the FE, and this replaces the 10th generation FC model. It's 30mm longer, 3mm wider and 1mm lower, and that should give the car a little bit more interior space, especially given that the wheelbase is also increased by 33mm. As for the exterior, I know a lot of you have seen the photos, a lot of you have made your minds about the design. Some of you may think that this is a little bit boring compared to the FC, but I think the refined and mature look of this car really suits the car. It makes this car look a little bit like a mini Accord. Now at the front here, you no longer have the full width chrome bar at the front. You just have this sort of sweeping body colored fascia over here. You have this sort of like jutting sort of forehead with this car. I'm not sure, I'm sort of on the fence about it. A lot of people maybe don't like it so much, but I think it's fine. Also, you have this sort of huge air intake down here as well. Now this RS model is the full spec model, so this has the full LED headlights over here as well as LED fog lamps down here, and you've also got the RS badge over here. Now along the side, us Malaysians are very fortunate. In Thailand and in Indonesia, the RS model gets tiny 17-inch alloys. Here we get the full 18-inch alloys with the nice Y-spoke pattern that you also find in the US and in Japan. Now the RS model also gets these black door mirrors and these door handles as well as the black trim that you see over on the side. Now on the FE, the body line is straighter. It no longer has the flared wheel arches that you have on the FC, and I think this gives the car a much more refined and restrained look. You still have this sort of C-pillar kink that you have over here to give this car a more sort of interesting look. Now at the back here again, you have a cleaner, more restrained, more premium look to this car. You no longer have the sort of ketam style taillights that you have on the FC, which a lot of you like to call. This has got a much nicer trapezoidal taillights with the almost full LED look. The bulbs are only on the indicators as well as the reverse lights, so that is a big upgrade. You also got the diffuser-like insert over here, and on this RS model you also have these dual tailpipes over here which look really sporty, as well as this black spoiler over here. Now we can't really show what this car is like on the inside. Honda is embargoing that until the launch of this car, but I'm sure you've seen the photos. It has a very sort of premium, almost Audi-like interior with a horizontal dashboard. You have a full width air vent design with a very nice metal honeycomb panel over it, and you've also got a touchscreen display over in the center. Now the biggest difference between this and the FC on the inside is a new sport button on the inside, so you have a toggle to switch between sport and normal mode. Now that not only changes the engine and gearbox response, but it also changes the heft of the steering. It makes it a little bit heavier, and that gives you a more sportier driving experience. Now in terms of performance, this RS model comes with a 1.5 litre VTEC turbo engine, and that produces 178 PS and 240 Newton meters of torque. So that's 4 PS and 20 Newton meters more than before. Now the engine still drives the front wheels through a CVT gearbox. Now we've heard rumors that the E model will also switch to the 1.5 litre turbo engine, so it no longer has the 1.8 litre naturally aspirated engine, but we'll have to wait until the launch of this car to know for sure. In terms of safety, this car comes with the full works, the full Honda Sensing Active Safety Suite, which includes autonomous emergency braking, adaptive cruise control with low speed follow or stop and go, lane keeping assist, lane centering assist, and automatic high beam, and of course Honda still uses a lane watch camera instead of a blind spot monitor, as you can see by that little watch on the door mirror over there. Now what's new about the Civic is that it now comes with lead car notification system, which works very similar to Pro Dua's front departure alert. Now that means that if you're in the traffic jam or at the traffic light and you're using your phone, for example, When the car in front moves away, the car will sound an alarm to notify you that the car ahead is moving forward and that you can go as well. So that saves you a little bit of embarrassment for the car behind. Now again, the Thai models all come with Honda sensing, and again we'll have to wait until the launch to know if this is standard in Malaysia as well. Now that we've told you everything Honda Malaysia has allowed us to talk about the car, let's go downstairs and drive this thing. We've now had the chance to drive the brand new Honda Civic on the Sepang South Circuit. We had 4 laps, so I think we have quite a good idea of how this car is like to drive on the track. Unfortunately, we don't have the time to get it down on the road. That will have to wait until the car has been launched. Now, the first thing that really strikes you when you get into this car is how quiet this thing is. When you're stepping on the accelerator, this car has a much smoother engine noise compared to the old FC. And it's quite a bit quieter as well. So this car really feels more refined than before. The CVT as well is much more responsive. The CVT also has much less whine than you have in the old car. The old car felt quite loud when you are accelerating really hard. So this is a lot quieter in that department as well. In terms of performance, this car has a turbocharged engine, again, like the FC. Now this doesn't feel like a typical turbocharged engine like you'd find in a Volkswagen TSI car, where you have a lot of torque coming down low that really pushes you forward. In this, it feels like a naturally aspirated engine, but with a much bigger displacement. And indeed, out on the track, this car feels much more powerful than the Toyota Corolla that we also had a chance to drive, even though that car has a slightly bigger engine. The CVT also is much more responsive to the throttle, and when you press the paddle shifters on the steering wheel, it feels a lot sharper. It feels more like a conventional automatic or even a double clutch gearbox rather than a conventional CVT, so that is a very good thing. Now, as for the way this car drives, unfortunately, again, it is very hard to discern what the ride comfort is like on such a smooth track as Sepang. But in the corners, it feels very poised and very controlled. Definitely compared to the old FC as well as the Corolla. It corners flatter when you're going around the corner, and it feels much more planted and much more stable. Now this car, like the FC that came before it, the RS model rides on these Michelin Pilot Sport 4 tyres that really have a lot of grip, and it barely understeers given the amount of power that it has. And the brakes are very strong. They have a very solid brake feel, and yet it's not too stiff that you can't really press it. The steering is also very sharp and very responsive. Again, this car feels very planted on the track. It feels surprisingly at home on the Sepang circuit. So that's all we have time for with this car. Again, we'll have to wait until we get the car after the launch to be able to tell you what the car is like to drive in full. But judging from this short tester, I think Honda has done a really good job here. Again, we'll have more details about this car closer to the launch. Until next time, thank you for watching.